Well, the New England Patriots have a new offensive coordinator. And it's a name that is very familiar in New England, familiar in the NFL, a guy back in the NFL who had been a successful head coach with the Texans, but for whatever reason didn't get a single head coaching interview. Bill O'Brien. Chris, that was something you caught wind of weeks ago. The Patriots had to keep the cards close to the vest for a variety of reasons. The Rooney Rule now applies to coordinator hires, so they had to go through a process, and we end up where we thought we were going to be. With a real, actual offensive coordinator with experience running an offense, now running the New England offense, a change that had to be made by Bill Belichick after last year's failed experiment with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, two non-offensive coaches who were given the reins, primarily Patricia, to the New England offense.
Yeah, I think this is it's a positive move for the New England Patriots and for Mac Jones. I think it's a double whammy. It kind of covers both areas here. One, we know they needed, a real offensive coordinator. Billy O'Brien understands how things are done in New England. There's going to be no systematic adjustment in any way. And then there's history with Mac Jones as well. So all of that makes sense. And yeah, not only are you going to improve your offense with a guy that's been there, done that, but you got a guy that's got a relationship with your starting quarterback who, hey, took a step back this year, not necessarily because of himself, but because of the surrounding issues with the football team. And now maybe you can get him back on the right track here with Bill O'Brien and, a better offense and a guy that knows him and has a relationship.
And Mac Jones was particularly frustrated because he had seen what it was like under Josh McDaniels. And it was a dramatic change from McDaniels to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. And as Vance Joseph, the Cardinals defensive coordinator, said as the Cardinals were preparing to host the Patriots on a Monday night late in the season, Matt Patricia calls an offense the way a defensive coordinator would. It's a different approach. It's a different mindset. It is a fundamentally different job. Running the defense is completely and entirely different from running the offense. I was talking to somebody over the weekend about that concept of offensive versus defensive head coaches, and I'm a big proponent in offensive coaches, head coaches, because of that relationship with the quarterback. But the person I was speaking to actually, I think, cited something John Lynch, the 49ers GM, has said about the difference between an offensive and a defensive head coach, a Kyle Shanahan. There's a higher level of proactivity. There's a greater sense of attack when you're an offensive coach. When you're a defensive coach, more careful, more conservative. Makes sense. What's your expertise in football? It's defending, it's stopping. It's not starting, it's stopping. Your offensive head coach is the guy that goes, is the guy that pushes, is the guy that's aggressive. Typically. I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush.
But I think you're right. Yep. No, I don't disagree with your thought there. You're right. Defense is always worried about risk and reward. And wait, where am I going to be susceptible? And, if I do this, they could do this. And, man, now I give up a huge play right away. Where, yeah, there's just it's a different mindset altogether. And I think that you're not wrong by saying that traditionally, defensive coaches are a little more conservative than the offensive coaches. I don't think you're off base with that. And we've had success with both sides there. It depends on the era of football. Right now, it does seem like for whatever reason, offensive coaches are have a little advantage in this era of football for a lot of reasons. But this was something that we knew had to be done by the New England Patriots. I mean, what we saw last year, it was nothing what we've seen over the 20 years of New England Patriot football with Bill Belichick. It was a great offense with Charlie Weiss when they won the first 3 Super Bowls. It was a great offense with Josh McDaniels. It was a really damn good one with Billy O'Brien when he took over after Josh McDaniels left, and then, of course, went back to great when Josh McDaniels came back. So, they were hurting, and their defense was really good. The weakness of their team was their offense, as we saw down the stretch, or really the whole year. It couldn't have been more ordinary. So now, hopefully, they're going to be able to lean on that a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's what they need. Look, I don't know how many more years Bill Belichick has of mediocrity, of missed playoffs, of no playoff victories. It was Robert Kraft, the owner of the team, who said last March he's bothered by the fact that they've gone 3 years without a postseason victory. At some point, something's got to give. You got to prove that you are a guy who can win football games without Tom Brady. I mean, the numbers are just dramatically different. Not to get back to the whole Tom Brady thing, but when he had Tom Brady, the Patriots were a hell of a lot better than when Bill Belichick hasn't had Tom Brady. So that's the reality for the New England Patriots. And I don't understand why Bill O'Brien didn't get a single head coaching interview. A guy who won like 4 divisions with the dysfunctional Texans team. I wrote something last week about this, and I'm trying to remember all the names I listed. Successful head coaches.
Yeah.
Not guys who flamed out after a year or two. Successful head coaches.
I saw you wrote this.
Ignored in this process.
Right.
Bill O'Brien, Jason Garrett, who was a coach of the year and had multiple playoff appearances and division round with the Dak. I saw somebody say on Twitter, Dak Prescott doesn't need to get better. He just needs to get back to being the guy he was when he was a rookie. Well, that was with Jason Garrett as the head coach. Oh. That was Dak Prescott's best year statistically.
All his best years were probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got Marvin Lewis, who got the word out this year he wants to get back in, and not a peep, not an interview.
Frank Reich we talked about before.
Frank Reich, who really wasn't as successful as the others, and he did get an interview. And Jim Caldwell got an interview. Jim Caldwell's another one. It's like, what's wrong with this picture that a guy who took a team to a Super Bowl, a guy who was the best coach the Lions had for a very long time, who got thrown overboard because they hired a GM that wanted to hire Matt Patricia, because, you get that thing where a GM and a coach, as they're working up the ranks, they become friends and they decide, hey, if we're ever in these positions, we want to work together. And it didn't work in Detroit. The New England way isn't going to work in most places other than New England. It's just odd. Even Mike Zimmer, who, he had multiple playoff appearances. He had an NFC Championship game appearance. He doesn't get an interview either. I would, at a minimum, Chris, I would want to talk to some of these guys who have done it at a high level to see if there's something that blows me away about them, and also to glean some personality traits from them that I may see or not see in these rising coordinators who have yet to show they can be a head coach. If I interview a young offensive coordinator and he reminds me of Bill O'Brien in a good way, Jason Garrett, whatever, if I can sense something that makes me think this person is going to be ready to lead, that this person is going to be ready to step into that bigger job that is a much different skill set, it just doesn't make sense to me why these guys didn't at least get consideration, given that they have done the job and they've done it well.
I hear you. It's really hard. There's only 32 of them. And, you look at some and I go, damn, there's some that are out there that have been successful. You named a lot of them. And I go, he deserves a second chance. But at the same time, there's also one sitting here in Assistantville in the NFL where I go, damn, they deserve a chance here at some point. Eric Bieniemy, Wink Martindale. They got other assistants where you go, man, they've done positive things for a long time, and they've been knocking at, can I get a chance at a head coaching job? And they don't ever get a shot. So that's where it's hard. So it's like I feel for everybody, and that's why the NFL is brutal. It's not fair a lot of the times. And, a lot of those guys you talked about there deserve second chances. They did pretty good in their first chance, let alone there was some things that if we unpacked some of their chances there, we'd go, there was some real dysfunction or some issues behind the scene that they had to deal with, and they still did pretty good. But it's just the nature of the beast. I don't understand it either, Mike. It's not fair. But there's a lot of qualified candidates out there that deserve a chance and haven't gotten it yet, and that's where it's really hard.
I mean, if I was the one making the call, I'm not saying I would definitely hire somebody who has experience as a head coach, but damn, that would be important for me. And I'd want to talk to multiple candidates who have been head coaches of NFL teams, because if you've done it and you've done it well, then chances are you're going to do it well for me. And this is the other thing too. While we're
it's the public perception that I feel like really plays into this too, right? That's the other aspect that I think makes owners chicken out with the retread guy there. It's just because of, you're going to hire that guy?
Oh, yeah.
They didn't do anything. and you're like, well, they actually way far exceeded expectations and did great. But because you don't really pay attention, you're going to start the online, you didn't do anything. And that's where it's wrong too, but that's just the nature of the beast.
I remember the backlash that USC got when they hired Pete Carroll 20 years ago.
Yeah, right?
It's been more than 20 now.
Yeah.
They were relentless because what's Pete Carroll ever done? He got fired by the Patriots. He got fired by the Jets. What's he ever done? Oh, God, he's not going to do anything here. And he transforms the program, and then he goes to Seattle and he transforms that one. Here's a point that I was talking to somebody about as well as it relates to when you have a coach that you know is a great coach. And this just isn't run-of-the-mill, middle of the pack. When you have a coach that you know is doing the job well, that is one huge thing to never have to worry about. If your team is struggling, it's not, does my coach not know what he's doing? No, my coach is good. I'm not worried about my coach. I can worry about my left tackle. I can worry about my kicker. I can worry about my salary cap space. I don't have to worry about my coach. And that's a huge difference for the people who run the teams, the GM, the front office people. If you know you've got a great coach, that is a huge burden that is never carried. Because when your team isn't getting it done, you never have to say to yourself, is my coach good enough? Because you know he is. In New England, the issue isn't the head coach. The issue is other stuff, offensive coordinator. For example, with Bill Belichick. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're clamoring for Sean Payton. Once you have a great head coach, you don't have to worry about whether or not your coach knows how to coach. Unlike many of these other teams, Chris.
Yeah.
That you get a rising coordinator like the Broncos did last year, and they spent most of the year asking themselves, does Nathaniel Hackett know how to be a head coach?
Well, yeah, you're right. You're spot on. I mean, God, we had some examples this weekend, right? Oh, wait, we lost the quarterback. Oh, we lost the backup quarterback. Oh, we're on the third stringer. Wait, I got a good damn coach. We'll still be good. Oh, wait, I lost my superstar quarterback with a high ankle sprain. Don't worry, I'm a good damn coach, and I've set this team up to where we can survive and Chad Henne can score on a 98-yard drive right here. That's what you're talking about. That's what good coaches do. They overcome obstacles. They always have the team believing, working hard, doing all those type of things, right? And I think that's kind of what you're speaking of. And if you look at the top teams in in football, the Baltimore Ravens, John Harbaugh, same thing, right? Oh, the quarterback's hurt, great. We're still going to be competitive, and you're going to have to fight for it like hell to beat us, even with our backup quarterback. That's what a special coach can do. He makes the organization believe, always has the right game plan and approach according to who's on the field and the injuries and all that. And I think that's kind of the point you're speaking to there.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.